no single individual is born with resilience. Resilience is a trait and a skill and a capacity that you hone and grow over time. And the only way that an individual can build resilience into who they are is to go through hard, challenging times. It's so easy for us to get into our daily grind and continue moving forward. And I also think that sometimes companies and organizations and leaders believe, wait, we worked so hard on this mission statement, or we worked so hard on these values. They're set in stone. We should not be changing them. And I want to add a healthy perspective to the fact that times change, your teams change, sometimes your customers change. And if you get into this healthy annual, I recommend annual. If you get into this healthy annual cadence, put it on the calendar, schedule a full day event every single year at the same time.
Yes.
Then you know when to course correct, or you know when to change and update things. And also, here's a little hidden thing. Your culture automatically spikes in a positive way because your team realizes you really care about them and their voice. And too few companies actually display that type of culture. I was a single lady in Atlanta dating via an online dating app, met someone who later we found out had actually been actually changed his profile, manipulated all of his questions and photos and everything to target me in that. Wow. And so, we went out a couple of times and something just didn't feel right. And, and so then it was enough for him to know my schedule. And so I went out to walk my dog that I had at the time one night. And that's when I was kidnapped and held hostage for 5 days. And during that 5 days, God and I had a lot of conversations.
I'm sure.
I won't use any of the explicits that I said to him during that time or her, whatever it was. Even in treatment. And then when I went into treatment afterwards, I was very much like, I don't want to talk about God. I don't want to talk about a higher power. I don't want to talk about any of that because, at that point, and I said to individuals, here's the deal. I think God understands if I'm mad at him right now. And I think that he can appreciate that. It may not be the right response. It may not be your response. But right now I'm mad because this happened, because I'd had a lot. I grew up in a very abusive family. I lost my first child stillborn. I had all these obstacles. And I was just like, are you freaking kidding me? Right?
Yeah. I can understand. Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say that tying to one of the blessings of growing up as a Christian, some of the things during those 5 days is I would repeat certain scriptures that I loved over and over in my head because it was really all I could find sanity for. So the Lord Shepherd, or the 23rd Psalm, I would just repeat over and over and over. And I did that when I was a child and I was experiencing abuse. And it is one of the reasons why when I coach people, and when I mentioned earlier about branding and all of that, and what are your mantras? And when I used to race Ironman races, I would memorize songs and I would memorize these motivational things because I know for a fact that replaying those things in your head, those words of wisdom and inspiration and motivation and strength, when you are able to draw upon that muscle memory that you've created, it can help you move mountains. And it literally helped me survive. And when I had the one opportunity to escape, I was just like, I'm going for it. And I strongly believe if I had not had a really solid mindset going in and had not built those tools in my toolbox, then I'm not sure I would have survived the kidnapping and made it to where I am today. I had a moment where I was out because he had kept me in a large dog kennel. And I had this moment where I was out of the dog kennel. He was on the opposite side of the huge room that we were in. And I just saw a moment to run for the door, and I did. And I am grateful that I was able to just react instantly. And I will tell you that the criminal justice system is really awful to
Yes.
survivors of things. And so I won't go into all the details of that or with him and where he's at now. But I will say that I stayed in the state for the next week working with Special Victims Unit. And then I went to North Carolina for 4 months and stayed with my best friend there. And that's when I got my first service dog. I now have my second service dog. And really the dogs have helped totally save my life because I went from before the kidnapping, I wasn't afraid of anything. I mean, my self hashtag is be brave, be badass that I've had for like 14 years.
Yeah.
And that was my brand. And people, when they saw me, they were like, this is a tough cookie. She can do these, this is the life that I've lived. Right. And I went from that moment to in a second, I was terrified of everything. I couldn't go out. I couldn't do anything. I was really just paralyzed. And when the doctors, my psychiatrist said, you should get a service dog, I was like, I am absolutely not getting a service dog. Like, no. But I will say that Cuba I went from slowly, and now as time has passed, my new service dog's name is Harley Quinn. And now I'm able to go more and more places without her with me. If I travel and I'm staying in a hotel or I'm flying, she goes with me. But in the beginning with Cuba, I mean, he went to 6 months worth of residential treatment with me in 3 different treatment centers, and he really just allowed me to know that, like, at one point I was just like, okay, just try and do something to me because it's going to turn out really badly for you.
Yeah.
Have restaurants, like flight attendants, and them, they will all come up to me and say, thank you for having such a totally legit service dog. It's amazing how many people now come up to me and those are the statements that they make because it is very obvious. We get to a plane and she'll almost pull me down to get and curl up on the floor in front of me. And I'm just like, but yeah, it is a blessing. And I think to the individuals who have fake service dogs, to me, it's the equivalent of parking in a handicap spot that you shouldn't be. You're just making life more difficult for those who need it. Also, if you see someone with a service dog, do not go up to them and start asking them all these questions about the service dog or asking them all these invasive questions about why they need to have a service dog. Absolutely do not go up and pet and talk to the service dog or whistle to the dog or do any of these things. People do this stuff all the time. Before I had a service dog and I really knew, I didn't understand all the things. So I also try and think of a beginner's mindset when I'm talking to other individuals and realizing it's kind of a gift to educate other people because I think people want to be kind to their fellow human beings. And if they realize that it's really invasive to constantly have someone go up and ask you questions about your service dog because now you're one of like 30 people who's done it. That I think when you realize that, then you understand, okay, wait, I can look at the dog from afar, but I don't need to know this person's personal business. A fact that the character trait of resilience, no single individual is born with resilience. Resilience is a trait and a skill and a capacity that you hone and grow over time. And the only way that an individual can build resilience into who they are is to go through hard, challenging times. And it is like the movie quote. And actually, if you see this little quote behind me, it says, the hard is what makes it great. And it is, back to the movie quote, if it were easy, everyone would do it. The hard is what makes it great. So I cannot think of a single example in humanity of where something was done that people look back and say, wow, that is amazing. And it was super easy for that individual.
Right.
So if someone thinks that it was easy, trust me, it wasn't. Anything that is really revolutionary, that is changing, that is really making a positive impact meant that the individuals who did that, they had to go through sacrifices. They had to make hard decisions. They had to sit in moments of most likely self-doubt. Maybe they had to do pivots in their lives or in their careers or in their relationships. They had to do all of these things in order to get to that full purpose. And when I think about those things and realize that, then I realized that, okay, this particular moment is absolutely not my favorite moment in time. Like this kind of stinks. And how can I have a mindset that pauses for a moment and said, okay, what is the next right step, the next
Yeah.
best step forward? And that's what I'm going to do. And instead of having this mentality of a victim where I could say, oh, I was severely abused as a child. I'd lost my first child. My second child has special needs, all of these things, instead of piling those up in a bucket that is really going to wear me down and take away my joy in life. Instead, saying, okay, well, through this childhood, what I learned and the lessons I got from it were this. I love to reframe things in life about,
Yes.
okay, what growth happened for me? What life lessons did I have? How can I utilize this growth and these life lessons to help empower someone else to make their life a little easier? And that's really my life mission in this, is that I don't want to make somebody else's life hard. I want to, when I learn something, I want to share those tools with somebody else to empower them. Because when I do that, that butterfly effect means that those individuals now are going to be able to do so many much greater things, right? Than I was ever able to do, but only because I was able to focus and harness the energy and the positive energy and the resilience and those tools and help share those with others.